Now let's shift our attention toward the XML-based schemas. Now keep in mind that XML schemas were created by the World Wide Web Consortium, the W3C, after people complained or began wanting or needing more than what the DTDs would give them. So this is based now on XSD language, which is the XML schema definition language. Now the thing to remember is these XML-based schemas, or an XSD, performs the exact same task that a DTD does. All we're using it for is to validate our XML documents, to make sure that the structure of our document matches what we need it to be, especially if we're collecting data from someone, that we can check the structure of their data against our schema to see if it matches our database and so forth. Now, so far, everything you learned about DTDs, the fact that we have to check the elements and the attributes, and we want to make sure there's a certain number of elements and so forth, we're going to do the exact same thing with XML-based schemas. But what happened was, using the DTDs, there were some weaknesses in DTDs that people began to really shout about and say, wait a minute, we need more control over this as the XML universe expanded, and so the W3C went to work. Now, another really cool thing about XML-based schemas are that they're written in XML. If you remember, the DTD was in not really a cryptic language, but it was different. And once you get in that XML mindset, it's good to stay there. And so writing these XML schemas in an XML-based language is a little easier, a little better, and it makes more sense. Now, one thing that you're going to see out there in third-party books and in the real world is any XML-based schema is usually referred to as an XSD. It's referred to kind of generically as the programming language that was used to develop it. Now, there's a hint right there in that XML-based schemas, and notice the S on that. There are other XML-based schemas out there. There's one called, now it looks like RelaxNG, and that's what I call it when you're looking at it. It's actually pronounced relaxing. It's an XML-based schema, has some different structure. A lot of people like it. It's a little easier to use, a little easier to write. I'm not going to go into it in this course. You can go out and do some reading on it. Schematron is another one that a lot of people like that's gathered a pretty large following. These are fine. And again, I want to stress to you, don't get into the arguments in the XML world. This is an evolving technology. Every one of these has its own strengths and weaknesses, okay? Look at your particular implementation, play around with this, and you will quickly figure out which one you can get by with, which one you have to have, which one gives you the functionality you want, and so forth. Now, having said all that, if you remember what the old DTD looked like, and actually let me go bring up the DTD, and I want to compare these for you. Now notice, on the DTD, to create a DTD that takes care of that people XML file that we're using, this is what it looked like. Now let's go get an XML schema that I generated and show you the difference. Now this is the people XSD. This is an XML schema that will validate the people.xml document that we've been using. Now, do take note of something. I generated this in Visual Studio, and so you'll see some Microsoft stuff in here. We'll talk about Microsoft issues later. There are plenty of them. But this is an XML schema. Actually, it's an XSD, you'll notice. So this is the XSD language. You'll notice this starts with an XML declaration up here, so it is an XML document. Everything has to be properly nested and so forth. So, with that, I wanted you to see these, understand kind of where we're coming from with XML schemas. Now let's jump into XML schemas, look at how we build one, what some of this stuff means in here, and how you can use them.